The letter arrived on a Tuesday, crisp and official-looking, with a law firm's letterhead that made my stomach drop. I'd spent years building a life where my father's absence couldn't touch me, but there it was, his ghost, delivered by priority mail. My name is Shanice, and I haven't seen my father since I was 8 years old. 21 years of birthdays, graduations, and life-changing moments, all without the man who helped bring me into this world. Now here was this letter, threatening to upend everything. "Girl, you're shaking," my best friend Alia said, watching me from across my kitchen counter. "Open it already." I tore the envelope open, my fingers trembling despite my attempts to stay composed. The words blurred together at first, but then they snapped into focus. "Dear Ms. Rose, we regret to inform you of the passing of your father, Michael Cox." "He's dead," I whispered, more to myself than to Alia. The letter continued, mentioning something about a will reading and potential inheritance. Alia moved around the counter to stand beside me. "You okay?" "I should be," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow even to my ears. "He's been dead to me for years anyway, right?" My phone buzzed, Mom calling, as if she somehow knew. I answered on speaker. "Baby, did you get a letter?" Mom's voice was tight with concern. "Yeah, just now. Did you know? I saw it in the obituary section yesterday. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you." I sank into a kitchen chair, the letter still clutched in my hand. "There's going to be a will reading. They want me there." "Are you going?" Mom asked. "I don't know if I—" "You should go," Aaliyah cut in. "If nothing else, to look that family of his in the eye. The other family, the replacement family, the wife and kids he chose over us." My stomach churned at the thought of meeting them. "The reading's on Friday," I said, scanning the letter again. "At the offices of Bruce Cox and Associates. I'll go with you," Aaliyah offered immediately. I shook my head. "No, this is something I need to do alone." Friday came too quickly. I chose my outfit carefully, a charcoal gray pantsuit that made me feel armored. The law office was housed in a gleaming downtown building, all glass and steel. As I stepped into the elevator, my reflection showed a woman who looked far more confident than I felt. The conference room was already occupied when I arrived. A man and woman sat on one side of the long table. They had to be Calvin and Mara, my half-siblings. They had his eyes. Our eyes. Ms. Rose, a distinguished older man, greeted me, extending his hand. "I'm Bruce Cox. Please, have a seat." Calvin's gaze followed me as I sat down, his expression cold and assessing. Mara at least attempted a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Now that we're all here," Bruce began, "let's proceed with the reading." What followed was a detailed accounting of my father's estate. Properties, investments, artwork, millions in assets, all meticulously catalogued. And then came the distribution. "To my children, Calvin and Mara Cox, I leave the entirety of my estate, to be divided equally between them." The words hit me like a physical blow. Nothing. Not even a mention of my name. "There must be some mistake," I heard myself say. I'm afraid not," Bruce replied, his expression sympathetic. "The will is quite clear." Calvin let out a small, satisfied sound. "Did you really expect anything else?" "Calvin," Mara warned quietly. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. 21 years of nothing, and he couldn't even acknowledge me in his will? "Ms. Rose," Bruce started. "No," I cut him off. "I didn't come here for money. I came here for answers." I turned to my half-siblings. "And I'm going to get them." Is that a threat?" Calvin asked, standing as well. "It's a promise." I walked out of that conference room with my head high, but my hands were shaking. In my car, I finally let the tears fall. Not of sadness, but of rage. My father had one last chance to make things right, and he chose to erase me completely. My phone lit up with a text from Alia. "How did it go?" I wiped my eyes and typed back, "Time to dig up some family secrets," because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That will reading wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. And I was going to make damn sure they all remembered my name before this was done. Mom was waiting when I got home, surrounded by dusty cardboard boxes I hadn't seen in years. She'd pulled them from the attic, and the sight of them made my throat tight. "I kept everything," she said softly, patting the box nearest to her. "Every photo, every letter, every scrap of paper that proved he once loved us." "Mom, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She pulled out a leather-bound photo album. "If you're going to fight this battle, you need ammunition." I sat cross-legged on the floor beside her as she opened the album. The first photo knocked the wind out of me, my father holding newborn me in the hospital, looking at me like I was his whole world. "He used to take you to the park every Sunday," Mom said, turning pages. "Rain or shine. Said his little princess needed her castle time." The photos told a story I barely remembered. Me on his shoulders at the zoo. Birthday parties where he wore silly party hats. Christmas mornings with him filming while I opened presents. "What changed?" I whispered. "These pictures. He looks so happy." Mom's hands stilled on a particular photo. Dad in a suit, standing next to a distinguished-looking older man at what appeared to be a corporate event. "That's Winston Hicks," she said. "Your step-sibling's grandfather. He offered your father a position at his company right around the time everything fell apart." I grabbed the photo, studying it closer. The same Winston Hicks who's now CEO of Hicks International. The very same. Mom reached for another box, this one filled with letters and documents. "Your father was ambitious, always dreaming big. Winston promised him the world. And all it cost him was his first family," I said bitterly. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. I opened it to find Bruce Cox standing there, looking uncomfortable. "Ms. Rose, I apologize for dropping by unannounced," he said. "May I come in?" I led him to the living room, where Mom was hastily trying to organize the scattered memories. "Mrs. Bell," Bruce nodded to her, "I remember you from the custody hearings." "Why are you here?" I asked. Bruce pulled out a manila envelope. "There's something you should know. Your father. He tried to change his will 3 months ago." My heart skipped. "What?" "He came to my office, wanted to include you. But before we could finalize the changes..." Bruce spread his hands helplessly. "Let me guess. He had a convenient accident?" Mom's voice was sharp. "A stroke," Bruce corrected. "Very sudden. The new will was never signed." I laughed humorlessly. "How perfect for them." "There's more," Bruce continued. "Your father left this with me." He handed me the envelope. "He made me promise to give it to you if anything happened to him before the new will was executed." Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. "The truth about everything. Be careful who you trust." "What's on it?" I asked Bruce. "I don't know." He was very specific. Only you could see it. After Bruce left, I plugged the drive into my laptop. It contained hundreds of files, emails, financial records, photos, and voice recordings spanning 2 decades. "Oh my God," I breathed, opening a folder labeled Winston Hicks, Evidence. "What is it?" Mom leaned over my shoulder. "Mom, proof of fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage." I scrolled through document after document. Dad was gathering evidence against Winston. That's why he tried to change the will, Mom realized. He knew they might come after him. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. About Dad." "Mara." I showed Mom the message. "Think it's a trap?" "Probably," she said. "But you're going anyway, aren't you?" I was already grabbing my keys. "I'll meet her in public, the coffee shop on 5th. "Shanice!" Mom called as I reached the door. She held up the photo of Dad and Winston. "Be careful. That man destroyed our family once. Don't underestimate what he'll do to protect himself." I nodded, tucking the USB drive securely in my pocket. "Don't worry, Mom. This time we're ready for them." As I drove to meet Mara, my mind raced with possibilities. Dad hadn't abandoned us. He'd been trapped, gathering evidence, playing a long game. And now he'd passed that game to me. "Game on," I muttered, pulling into the coffee shop parking lot. Through the window, I could see Mara already waiting, looking nervous. Time to find out if my sister was an ally or an enemy in this family war. Mara sat at a corner table, fidgeting with a paper coffee cup. She looked different from the composed woman at the will reading, more vulnerable, almost scared. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "Let's skip the pleasantries," I replied. "Why am I here?" She glanced around nervously before leaning forward. "Calvin doesn't know I'm meeting you. Neither does grandfather." "Winston," I said flatly. "The man who helped destroy my family. It's not that simple." Mara's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Dad was trying to protect you." "Protect me? By abandoning me?" Mara stopped abruptly as her phone buzzed. The color drained from her face as she read the message. "We need to go, now." "What? We just got here." "Calvin knows I'm here. He's coming." She grabbed her purse. "Please, if you want answers, come with me." Against my better judgment, I followed her to her car. We'd barely pulled out of the parking lot when Calvin's black SUV roared in. "Get down!" Mara ordered, accelerating through a yellow light. I ducked as Calvin's vehicle swerved behind us. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded. "There's a journal," Mara said, taking a sharp turn. "Dad's private journal. It has everything. Names, dates, transactions. Calvin's been tearing the house apart looking for it." "And?" I found it first." She patted her purse. "I was going to give it to you, but Calvin must have followed me." We zigzagged through side streets until we lost Calvin's SUV. Mara pulled into an abandoned warehouse parking lot, killing the engine. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. She pulled out a worn leather journal. "Because Dad was right. About everything." She handed it to me. "Read it. But not here. Somewhere safe." My phone rang. "Aaliyah." "Where are you?" she demanded. "Your mom's worried sick." "I'm fine," I started to say, but Mara grabbed my arm. "Calvin's back," she hissed. His SUV blocked the only exit, and he stepped out looking furious. "Give me the journal, Mara." "It's not yours," she shot back. "Don't be stupid, little sister." He advanced toward us. "You know what grandfather will do." I clutched the journal to my chest. "Your grandfather's reign of manipulation ends now." Calvin laughed coldly. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. Dad was weak, sentimental. That's what got him killed." "Killed?" Mara gasped. "The stroke was convenient timing, wasn't it?" Calvin's smile was chilling. "Grandfather always said Dad was a liability. Too many conscience attacks about his first family." My hands shook with rage. "You knew? You helped cover up his murder?" "I protected our family's interests." He reached into his jacket. "Now, hand over the journal, or—" A police siren wailed nearby. Calvin's head snapped toward the sound. "I called them before we left the coffee shop," Mara said quietly. "I knew you'd follow us." Calvin's face contorted with fury. "You stupid bitch!" He lunged for her, but I stepped between them, driving my knee up hard. He doubled over with a grunt of pain as police cars surrounded us. "Calvin!" An officer called through a megaphone. "Step away from the vehicle with your hands up. You'll regret this." He snarled at us before complying. As the police handcuffed him, Mara turned to me with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. For everything." I opened the journal, finding a photo tucked inside. Dad with me and Mom. His last Christmas with us. On the back, in his handwriting, "My real legacy, keep her safe." "He never stopped loving you," Mara said softly. "Grandfather threatened to hurt you and your mom if Dad didn't cooperate. That's why he stayed away." My phone buzzed again, Mom calling. "I'm okay," I answered. "But you need to hear this. Dad didn't abandon us. He was protecting us." "I know, baby," Mom's voice cracked. "I just found his letters. The ones he wrote but never sent, explaining everything. Bruce brought them over." I watched as the police car carrying Calvin drove away. "We're going to make this right, Mom, for Dad." "Be careful," she pleaded. These people are dangerous. They're not just these people anymore, I said, looking at Mara. Some of them are family. Mara gave me a tentative smile through her tears. We had a long way to go, but for the first time, I felt like I had an ally in this fight. And with Dad's journal in my hands, we finally had the weapon we needed to bring Winston down. Back at my apartment, Mara, Mom, and I spread the contents of Dad's journal across my dining room table. Aaliyah brought coffee and stayed to help us piece together 20 years of secrets. Look at this entry, I said, pointing to a page dated 3 years ago. Winston forced Dad to sign over his patents to Hicks International. Patents worth millions. That was just the beginning, Mara added, pulling out more papers. Grandfather used those patents to secure government contracts, but the money never went where it was supposed to. Mom picked up a photograph paper clipped to a document. These men, they're federal officials? Bribed officials, Mara confirmed. Grandfather has them all in his pocket. That's how he's gotten away with everything for so long. My phone buzzed. Bruce calling. I put him on speaker. Calvin made bail, he announced without preamble. Winston's lawyers are already moving to suppress any evidence from the journal. They can't, I protested. We have proof of criminal activity. They're claiming it's privileged information, protected by attorney-client confidentiality. Aaliyah, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. But your father wasn't their attorney, was he? No, Mara said slowly. He was their victim. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages. And I have proof. Dad sent me voice recordings. She played one, and Dad's voice filled the room. Winston's threatening me again. Says if I don't sign the Maxwell contract, he'll make sure Shanice's scholarship gets revoked. I can't let him hurt her future. Tears stung my eyes. All those years I'd thought he didn't care. He'd been fighting for me from the shadows. There's more, Mara continued. Videos of grandfather's meetings, offshore account numbers, everything Dad could gather. He was building a case. But why didn't he go to the authorities? Aaliyah asked. Mom's hands trembled as she held up another letter. Because of this. She read aloud. Winston has people everywhere. Police, judges, regulators. One wrong move, and my family pays the price. I have to be patient, gather everything, make it too big to bury. And now we have it all, I said. The journal, the USB drive, Mara's recordings. Bruce's voice crackled through the speaker. Be careful. Calvin's release came with conditions, but Winston's not bound by them. He'll be coming for that evidence. As if on cue, my building's security alarm blared. Mara rushed to the window. Grandfather's car just pulled up, with Calvin. Back door, I ordered, grabbing the journal and my laptop. Now! We scrambled to gather everything as heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Mom shoved the loose papers into her bag, while Aaliyah grabbed the rest of the drives. Fire escape, I directed. But as we reached it, we heard voices below. They've got people down there too, Mara whispered. A loud knock rattled my front door. Shanice! Winston's voice boomed. Let's discuss this like reasonable people. Like you discussed things with Dad? I called back. Right before his convenient stroke? You're making dangerous accusations, young lady. While he talked, Aaliyah was texting frantically. She showed me her phone. Police on their way. Keep him talking. You killed him, I continued, my voice breaking. Your own son-in-law, because he finally stood up to you. I protected my family's interests, Winston replied coldly, just as I'm doing now. The door shuddered under heavy impact. They were trying to break in. Mara grabbed my arm. The neighbor's balcony. We can reach it from here. Mom looked terrified but determined. Go. I'll hold them off. Mom, no! I lost your father to them, she said firmly. I won't lose you too. The door splintered. Mom pushed us toward the balcony as Winston and his men burst in. Rachel, Winston said smoothly, still interfering after all these years. Still destroying families, Winston. Mom stood her ground. The police are coming. They'll find everything. The police work for me, he smirked. But the FBI doesn't. Everyone froze. Bruce's voice came from Mom's phone, still connected. Agent Martinez, did you get all that? A new voice responded. Every word, counselor. All units move in. Sirens wailed outside. Winston's face contorted with rage as he lunged for Mom, but Aaliyah swung her heavy bag, catching him in the chest. He stumbled back as federal agents swarmed through both doors. Winston Hicks, an agent announced, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and suspicion of murder. As they led Winston and Calvin away in handcuffs, I hugged Mom tight. That was terrifying and brilliant. Bruce called the FBI right after Calvin's arrest, she explained. We just needed Winston to incriminate himself. Mara watched her grandfather being driven away, her expression a mix of relief and sadness. Dad would be proud, she said quietly. Of all of us, the evidence was safe, but our fight wasn't over yet. We still had a court battle ahead, and a family to rebuild from the ashes of Winston's destruction. The federal courthouse buzzed with tension as Bruce prepped us for the preliminary hearing. We sat in a small conference room, surrounded by boxes of evidence and empty coffee cups. They'll try to discredit you both, Bruce warned, looking between me and Mara. Winston's lawyers are already spinning a story about disgruntled family members seeking revenge. Let them, I said. We have proof. We also have a problem. Bruce slid a newspaper across the table. The headline made my stomach drop. Key witness in Hicks case found dead. Marcus Thompson, Mara read, her voice shaking. Dad's old assistant. He was supposed to testify about the patent transfers. Apparent suicide, Bruce said grimly, though the timing is suspicious. Mom gripped my hand. They're sending a message. We can't back down now, I insisted. Dad died trying to expose this. A knock at the door made us all jump. Agent Martinez entered, looking grave. Calvin's agreed to testify against Winston, she announced, in exchange for immunity. He's lying, Mara burst out. He'll say whatever grandfather tells him to. Actually, Martinez replied, he's afraid. Says Winston ordered him to handle Marcus, but he couldn't go through with it. Someone else did the job. My phone buzzed with a text from Alia. Turn on the news now. I grabbed the remote for the conference room TV. A reporter stood outside Hicks International headquarters. Breaking news, thousands of internal documents from Hicks International have just been leaked online, revealing decades of corporate fraud and criminal activity. How? Bruce breathed. Mara's phone chimed. She read the message and smiled. The IT department. They were loyal to Dad, not grandfather. They've been waiting for the right moment. This changes everything, Martinez said. The prosecution wants to move forward immediately. Can you both testify tomorrow? Before we could answer, the fire alarm blared. Security guards rushed in. The building's being evacuated, one announced. Bomb threat. Another intimidation tactic, Bruce muttered as we hurried down the stairs. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Through the chaos, I spotted a familiar face, Winston's personal assistant, hurrying toward a waiting car. She's carrying Dad's briefcase, Mara gasped, the one that went missing after he died. I took off running, Mara right behind me. The assistant saw us coming and broke into a sprint, but she wasn't fast enough. I caught her arm as she reached for the car door. Give me the briefcase, I demanded. You don't understand, she pleaded. He'll kill me. We can protect you, Agent Martinez said, catching up to us. But we need what's in that briefcase. The assistant's hands trembled as she handed it over. Inside, we found a thumb drive and a sealed envelope addressed to me and Mara. Back at my apartment, under FBI protection, we opened the letter together. My daughters, Mara read aloud, tears streaming down her face. If you're reading this, I've failed to make things right while alive. The thumb drive contains recordings of every conversation I've had with Winston over the past 5 years, including the day he threatened to kill me. Keep reading, I whispered. Shanice, I never stopped loving you. Every decision I made, every compromise that broke my heart, was to keep you safe. Mara, you have your mother's strength and your sister's courage. Together, you can finish what I started. Trust each other. The truth is, your shield. Mom wrapped her arms around both of us as we cried. "We have everything we need now," Bruce said softly. "The leaked documents, the briefcase evidence, Calvin's testimony. Winston can't escape this time." My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered on speaker. "You think you've won?" Winston's voice was ice cold. "I built an empire. I've destroyed people far more powerful than you." "No, grandfather," Mara replied. "You built your empire on lies, and Dad gave us the truth to tear it down." "You ungrateful." "Save it for court," I cut him off. "We're not afraid of you anymore." After hanging up, I looked at our unlikely family gathered in my living room. Mom, Mara, Bruce, Aaliyah, Agent Martinez, all united by Dad's final mission. "Tomorrow," Bruce said, "we end this." "For Dad," Mara whispered. "For justice," Mom added. I picked up Dad's journal, running my fingers over his familiar handwriting. "For the truth." Outside, news vans lined the street as the leaked documents continued to expose Winston's crimes. Tomorrow would bring the fight of our lives. But tonight, we had what Winston could never buy or steal: the strength of a family united by love and truth. And that made us unstoppable. The courtroom fell silent as I took the witness stand. Winston sat at the defense table, his expensive suit and confident smirk a stark contrast to Calvin's disheveled appearance beside him. Mara squeezed my hand as I passed by. "Please state your name for the record," the prosecutor began. Shanice Rose. "Ms. Rose, can you tell us about the events leading up to your father's death?" I looked directly at Winston as I spoke. My father spent 20 years gathering evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and corporate crimes committed by Winston, his father-in-law. Winston's lawyer jumped up. "Objection! Speculation!" "Overruled," the judge responded. "Continue, Ms. Rose." I held up Dad's journal. This journal details every threat, every coerced decision, every illegal transaction, including the conversation where Winston threatened my father's life 3 days before his sudden stroke. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Winston's face darkened. "And how did you obtain this journal?" the prosecutor asked. "My sister Mara found it, and—" A commotion at the back of the courtroom cut me off. A man burst through the doors, bleeding from his head. "They tried to kill me!" he shouted. "Winston's men!" Security rushed forward as chaos erupted. Through the confusion, I recognized him. Marcus Thompson, the supposedly dead witness. "Order!" the judge thundered, banging his gavel. Marcus was quickly secured by federal agents. Agent Martinez approached the bench, speaking urgently to the judge. "Your Honor," she announced, "Mr. Thompson faked his death after an attempt on his life. He's been in protective custody, gathering additional evidence." Winston stood abruptly. "This is absurd. I demand—" "Sit down, Mr. Hicks," the judge ordered. Mr. Thompson approached the bench. As Marcus was sworn in, I watched Calvin whispering frantically to his grandfather. Winston silenced him with a glare. "Mr. Thompson," the prosecutor began, "please tell us about the night Michael Cox confronted Winston Hicks about the patent theft." Marcus's voice shook but held firm. Michael discovered Winston had been stealing his innovations for years. When he threatened to expose everything, Winston said he'd destroy both his families, starting with Shanice. "You're lying!" Winston shouted, rising again. "I recorded everything," Marcus continued, pulling out a phone, "including Winston ordering Calvin to arrange Michael's murder." Calvin crumbled. "Grandfather, you promised they wouldn't find out." "Shut up, you fool!" Winston hissed. But Calvin was breaking. "I can't do this anymore. He made me help poison Dad's medication. Said it would look like a stroke." The courtroom exploded. Winston lunged at Calvin, but security intercepted him. As they wrestled him back, something fell from his pocket, a small vial. Agent Martinez snatched it up. "Your Honor, I believe we've just found evidence of premeditated murder." Winston fought against the guards. "You're all nothing without me. I made this family." "No," I said, my voice carrying over the chaos. "You destroyed this family. Dad spent his life trying to protect us from you, and now we're finally making it right. The judge called for order as Winston was handcuffed. Calvin broke down completely, confessing everything. Court officers led them both away as reporters scrambled for the doors. Mara rushed to hug me as I stepped down from the witness stand. Mom joined us, tears streaming down her face. "It's really over," Mara whispered. Bruce approached with Marcus. "Not quite. There's still the matter of your father's estate. Given the circumstances, the original will is now contested." "I don't care about the money," I said. "But I do," Mara insisted. "Dad wanted you to have your share. It's time to honor his real wishes." Marcus cleared his throat. "There's something else. Michael left a video message, in case the truth ever came out. Would you like to see it?" We gathered in Bruce's office, where Marcus set up his laptop. Dad's face appeared on screen, recorded just days before his death. "My daughters," he began, looking tired but determined. "If you're watching this, the truth has finally come to light. Shanice, my firstborn, my greatest regret was letting Winston tear us apart. Mara, you helped me stay strong when I wanted to give up. Together, you're more powerful than any empire Winston built. I love you both. Make things right. Be the family I couldn't protect." As the video ended, Mara took my hand. "He did protect us. He gave us the weapons to fight back." "And now?" Mom asked softly. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw Dad's strength in her eyes. "Now we rebuild, together." Outside, news helicopters circled the courthouse as Winston's empire crumbled. But inside that office, something stronger was rising from the ashes. A family bound by truth, justice, and love. The verdict came down like thunder, guilty on all counts. Winston's face remained stone cold as the judge read out his sentence: 30 years without possibility of parole. Calvin received 15 years with a chance of early release for his cooperation. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Ms. Rose, how does it feel to bring down one of the country's most powerful businessmen? Ms. Cox, will you take over Hicks International?" Mara gripped my hand as we pushed through the crowd. "No questions today," Bruce announced, shielding us. Back at Dad's mansion, now legally split between Mara and me, we gathered in his study. The room still held his presence: family photos he'd kept hidden, engineering awards on the walls, and that familiar leather chair behind his desk. "The board wants to meet," Bruce said, reviewing messages on his phone. "Hicks International is in freefall. They need leadership." "They need more than that," I replied. "They need a complete overhaul." Mara nodded. "The company's built on stolen patents and corrupt deals. We have to make it right." A knock at the door interrupted us. Agent Martinez entered with a team, carrying boxes. "We've finished processing your father's private safe," she announced. "There's something you both need to see." She pulled out a thick folder labeled Restoration Plan. Inside were detailed documents, all in Dad's handwriting. "He had everything planned," Mara breathed, scanning the pages. "Lists of every stolen patent, every wronged inventor, every corrupt contract, and proposals to make amends." "Look at this," I pointed to a section. He wanted to transform the company into an innovation incubator, supporting independent inventors and small startups. "There's more," Agent Martinez added, producing another document. "A list of employees who helped him gather evidence. People still in the company who want to help rebuild." Mom, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. "Your father always said the best revenge is living well and doing right." Aaliyah arrived with coffee and takeout. "Have you seen the news? Winston's other victims are coming forward. It's a tsunami of revelations." My phone buzzed. A message from Calvin's lawyer. "Calvin wants to meet," I told the room. "Says he has information about other corrupt executives." "It's a trap," Aaliyah warned. "No," Mara said softly. "He's trying to make amends. I know my brother. He was trapped in grandfather's web too." The next morning, we visited Calvin in prison. He looked smaller somehow, without Winston's shadow looming over him. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "To both of you. I was a coward." "Yes, you were," I agreed. "But you finally did the right thing." He slid a notebook across the table. "These are names, dates, offshore account numbers. Everything I know about grandfather's partners. They're still out there, still hurting people." Mara touched his hand. "Thank you." Back at the mansion, we called an emergency board meeting. The conference room filled with nervous executives and shareholders. "Hicks International is dead," I announced, standing at the head of the table. "But from its ashes, we're building something new, something honest." Mara unveiled the presentation screen, showing Dad's plans. "Welcome to Rose Innovations, a company built on integrity, not intimidation, on collaboration, not theft." "This is insane," one executive protested. "You'll destroy everything." "No," Bruce countered. "They'll fix everything. And anyone who doesn't like it can leave, preferably before the FBI reviews their involvement in past crimes." The room grew quiet. "We're offering a chance at redemption," I continued. "Help us make this right, or step aside." One by one, people began nodding. A young engineer stood up. "I worked with your father. He protected us from Winston, gave us hope. I'm in." Others followed. By day's end, we had a core team committed to the transformation. That evening, Mara and I sat in Dad's study, sharing a bottle of his favorite whiskey. "He'd be proud," she said, looking at his photo. "Not just of exposing grandfather, but of what we're building now." "I wish he could see it," I replied. "See us working together." "He does." Mom appeared in the doorway with Ilea. "And he'd love knowing his daughters are stronger together than any force trying to tear them apart." Ilea raised her glass. "To Michael, the man who planted the seeds of justice." "To Dad," Mara and I said together. Outside, the sun set on our first day as legitimate business leaders. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but we faced them with clear consciences and united hearts. Winston had built his empire on fear and greed. We would rebuild it on truth and justice, the legacy our father always dreamed of. The real work was just beginning, but for the first time, the future looked bright with possibility. The morning sun streamed through Dad's study windows as I signed the final document. Bruce collected the papers with a satisfied smile. "That's the last of Winston's victims compensated," he announced. "Every stolen patent returned, every wronged inventor repaid." "With interest," Mara added, rubbing her tired eyes. She'd spent countless nights tracking down people Winston had destroyed over the decades. My phone buzzed. A text from the prison warden. "Calvin's being released early for good behavior," I told Mara. "He wants to know if we'll meet him." "Will you?" Mom asked, entering with coffee. "We already did," Mara replied. "Yesterday, he's going to work with Agent Martinez, helping prosecute Winston's remaining conspirators." A knock at the door interrupted us. Ilea entered with Marcus, both grinning. "You need to see this," Ilea said, turning on the TV. A news anchor appeared. "In a historic moment for corporate accountability, Rose Innovations has just been named Most Ethical Company of the Year. The phoenix that rose from Hicks International's ashes has become a model for corporate reform." "That's not all," Marcus added, handing me a tablet. "Remember that young engineer who stayed loyal to your dad? Her team just developed something revolutionary." I scrolled through the technical specifications, my eyes widening. "This could change everything in renewable energy." "Dad would have loved this," Mara said softly. "Real innovation, helping real people." The intercom buzzed. "Ms. Rose, Ms. Cox," our secretary announced. "They're ready for you in the conference room." We entered to find the room packed with familiar faces. Inventors Dad had secretly supported, employees who'd helped expose Winston, even some of our father's old college friends. "Welcome to the first annual Michael Cox Innovation Summit," I announced, "where small inventors get the support they deserve." "And where no one has to compromise their integrity to succeed," Mara added. As we watched inventors presenting their ideas, Mom squeezed my hand. "Look what you've built from all that pain," she whispered. "What we built," I corrected. "All of us." Later that evening, we gathered in Dad's study for what had become our nightly tradition. Mara poured the whiskey while Aaliyah ordered dinner. "I visited grandfather today," Mara said quietly. "He's dying." The room fell silent. "He wanted to apologize?" Mom asked. Mara shook her head. "No. He wanted to warn me that we're making a mistake. Said empires aren't built on kindness." "But legacies are," I replied. "Dad proved that." Bruce arrived with a package. "Speaking of legacies, this came from the storage unit Michael kept secret from Winston." Inside, we found photos, letters, and a small velvet box. The note attached read, "For my daughters, when the truth finally sets us free." The box contained 2 identical lockets. Inside each was a tiny photo of Dad holding baby me, with space for a second picture. "We should take a new photo," Mara suggested, tears in her eyes. "All of us together." As we posed for the picture, Mom, Mara, Aaliyah, Bruce, Marcus, and me, I felt Dad's presence stronger than ever. "The board meeting tomorrow will be interesting," Bruce mused. "Those old guard executives are still fighting the changes." "Let them fight," I said. "We're not backing down." "Never again," Mara agreed. My phone chimed with a message from Agent Martinez. "Winston's appeals denied. Justice stands." "It's really over," Mom breathed. "No," I said, looking at the wall where Dad's patents now hung proudly. "It's really beginning." Aaliyah raised her glass. "To new beginnings." "To family," Mara added. "To truth," Mom said. "To Dad," I finished, "who taught us that real strength isn't in what you take, but in what you give back." As night fell over the city, lights twinkled in the Rose Innovations Tower, no longer a monument to greed, but a beacon of hope. In offices throughout the building, teams worked on projects that would help people, not hurt them. In labs funded by our new innovation program, small inventors pursued their dreams without fear of theft or exploitation. Dad's journal sat open on his desk, its final pages no longer filled with evidence of crimes, but with our own entries, stories of restoration, redemption, and rebirth. The empire Winston built through fear had crumbled, but something far stronger had taken its place. A legacy built on love, truth, and justice. I touched the locket around my neck, feeling its weight, the perfect balance of past and present, of pain and healing, of endings and beginnings. We had done more than expose the truth. We had transformed it into something beautiful. And somewhere I knew Dad was smiling.